Welcome to She Sells Radio. We are talking today about how to drop perfectionism in your sales process. And I wanted to bring this up because this is something that we all say sometimes, right? Like, oh, I'm just a perfectionist, or I haven't taken action yet because I'm a perfectionist, yada, yada. And I would love to invite all of us collectively to rise up above that excuse. And here's the thing about perfectionism or identifying yourself as a perfectionist. It costs you money. In your sales process, it holds you back from reaching out. It holds you back from making the decisions you know you need to make. It makes you question yourself. You get stuck in analysis paralysis. And what it really is at its core is it's a very convenient cover up for the fear of failure. And I think when we reframe it that way and realize, oh my gosh, like that's what it really is, and I've just been making it sound pretty by calling it perfectionism, we can really step into a new level of ownership and accountability around our results and around how we show up and take action that's aligned with what we say we want to have happen in our lives. And I think it was Brendan Burchard who I first heard say this. And this is going to be a rough quote, but essentially what he said is, you can't perfect something you haven't launched yet. You can't perfect something you haven't put out there yet. So you can't be a perfectionist if you aren't taking action towards something. There's nothing there for you to perfect yet. So how do you know if you're a perfectionist in sales? I mean, I think if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I make those excuses. Yeah, I say those things. Yeah, I hold off on taking action. Yeah, I second guess myself. But let's just dial it in. I mean, number one, I think you identify with being a perfectionist in other areas of your life. So how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? So if that is how you identify in one area, you very likely carry those habits and trends over to you in your sales process. What else? You overthink what you're going to say. Have you ever done that and gotten so caught up? And I've done this, like I get it. And this is when I know I've disconnected from my heart and my purpose and kind of gotten in my head, where you get so caught up in, how do I say the right thing to this person in the right way? And to me, that's my instant cue. It doesn't happen to me much anymore. It used to happen to me a lot, but that's the instant cue that, there's some sort of fear going on here because I'm so over analyzing what I'm going to say, because I don't think what I would just naturally say is going to be good enough. So do you overthink what you're going to say? Do you hold back from taking action? Do you say there's going to be a better time? Or, I'll do it tomorrow when this thing is done, or this thing is ready. And it's not to say with all of this that there isn't a certain timing to things, right? So if you're going to do, for most people, if you're going to do some sort of a big launch, like you want to have some social assets to promote it, you want to have somewhere to send people. But I'm going to tell a story in a minute of how I've had very successful launches without having a whole lot of stuff like that, just from taking action. So I think, look at those areas. And again, with everything, it's no judgment, but it is awareness of, wow, am I really letting perfectionism hold me back from moving forward on my goals? Because I want you to remember, write this down, take note of this. Perfectionism costs you money. You can be a perfectionist, or you can get really wealthy going out there and serving and helping people. So you got to decide which one you want. So what do you do if you are noticing, yep, I'm a perfectionist in my sales process? Number one, I want you to get into service mode. And this to me is the fastest way for us in our careers, in our sales endeavors, to get out of our own way, is to remember what we're really doing this for in the first place. Because usually when we're in perfectionism, we're super tied to an outcome. And anytime we're tied to an outcome, I've found in my own life, the universe kind of laughs and is like, oh, that's so funny. That's really cute. You think you have to have that to be so happy. And anytime there's that attachment energy where something has to turn out a certain way, like this client has to buy from me, this launch has to go this way, this whatever has to be a certain way. I guarantee you it will not be as successful as it could be if you got a little loose about it. if you got a little more relaxed about it. And oftentimes what that takes is us remembering, number one, clients are not source. So we get to be attached to our goal. I say all of this to say we get to be attached to our goal in that energy of this or something better, right? So take whatever your financial goal is for the year. It's like this or something better is happening in my life. That is my requirement. And with that, still, we get to have kind of a loose, playful energy with it. But we don't get to say, this person has to be my client. This one deal has to pan out this way, because that's the surefire way to get yourself all tangled up energetically. And usually those are not the deals that come through, the ones that we're so grippy to. But when we can get into service mode and just really, make that our default mode of how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? That's something that I repeat to myself in my affirmations every day, that the number one thing I ask myself in my business every day is, how can I serve? And when we have that energy with it, it becomes fun. It's less about having to say something the perfect way. It's less about having to have a certain outcome from something. And it's more about, how can I give more of myself? How can I show up as the best version of me? What are the best, highest level behaviors and actions I can take today that will be most impactful in somebody else's life? Because when we get out of that selfish mode, all of those selfish emotions are survival emotions. And we know in that moment, when we're in that survival selfish mode, we're not connected to our highest truth. We're not connected to our highest power. It's like we've disconnected ourselves from what's really possible for us. But when we can shift it into service mode, which is the mode of I just want to give. Let me just see how I can give today. And we're in that higher level energy of generosity, of love, of abundance, of service, of help. It gets to be really kind of magical how everything works for you in your life. And that's when the synchronicities happen. That's when you think it's going to be this client and it's not, but then someone else comes along who's just your dream client in ways you couldn't have even imagined. And you don't even know where they came from, but they're there and they want to work with you and they want to pay you in full today. That's where we want to live, is in that place of service, in that place of connection, in that place of remembering how truly connected we all are as a species on this planet. We get into these silos, we get into these modes of thinking that are like, it's all about me, right? And it's easy to do. It's the way our brain is programmed. But that's why we have to daily do the work to rise above that and remember that at the end of the day, why you're doing this, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in sales, is, hopefully one of the core drivers is you want to help people. You have something that you love helping people with. And yes, it gets to be a double blessing because you get to make more money too, but we got to bring it back to service. Okay, so that's the first. The second thing is to remember, people don't trust perfect. I mean, they just don't. People don't trust perfect. I can't tell you, I get pitched a ton of stuff these days. I know you do too. The things that catch my attention are the things that are real. They're the things where someone is genuine. They're the things where someone is like, is excited. And I shared this example on Instagram the other day, this little story, which was so fun. But this is kind of an example of a synchronicity. And then it's an example of like what I love in a good pitch these days. I had been on Amazon, this is maybe like a week ago. And I was scrolling through books. I may have shared the story on the podcast already. So if I have, just bear with me, but I think it's fun. Scrolling through books, and I saw some books by a certain author that I had interviewed years and years ago on another podcast I was a co-host of. And his brand has really blown up and he's done a great job. And I was like, oh, it would be so cool to have this guy on the show. And that was kind of it. And I left it at that. And the next day, I get an email and a text from his PR person, his assistant. I don't know, the specific role of this person, but it was a genuine, heartfelt video message from this person specific to me that was real, that was not too polished, in a good way. I mean, in a good way. And this guy was like, I'm a little nervous to even reach out. I'm such a fan of your show. Like, oh, this is a big opportunity. And I wanted to, let you know about so-and-so who I work for and see if there's, any way we could get him on your show, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, first of all, the synchronicity of it was really fun. But the second part of it is his approach was so genuine and it was so real. And to me, it was like such an easy yes. For multiple reasons, it was an easy yes, but it was an easy yes because of how he approached it. Even if I hadn't known who he was pitching, I at least would have looked the person up and given them a decent consideration to come onto the show. And it's that type of energy, that type of genuine energy where people just want to know that you're real. They want the real, authentic you. And, in my own business, we've been working on up-leveling our brand and, just really like taking things up another notch over the past year or so. But I always share this with my 10K Club students to remind them, like, you don't have to be perfect with it. We did multiple 6-figure launches of the 10K Club without a website. And that's what people think today. Like, oh, I've got to go build this whole funnel. It's got to be like so perfect, so polished before I can ever go and even try to get my idea out there into the world. And here's what I would say is I do not agree with that. Not that at some point when you've got proof of concept, you're not going to build that out because you're going to want to systematize and automate as much as you can to be able to keep scaling, but not to get something out there. It was so simple. It was so simple. It was literally me speaking from the heart, reaching out to people I wanted to work with, having real, genuine, heartfelt conversations. And that was it. And they didn't need a sales page. They didn't need all of that because it was that real, authentic connection. And there's so little of that today that when you can really share that and show that part of you, people trust that. It's so refreshing. So what I want to encourage you to look at is in your own process, how can you be more real? Are you overthinking your words? Are you writing out an email 5 times because you think it has to be perfect? Are you holding back from sharing parts of yourself that are really important to you on social media because you're afraid of judgment? You're afraid it's going to turn off certain clients. And I'd invite you to get really into the belief system that for my right clients, like there's nothing I can do that turns them away. Right? We want to deflect the wrong clients. We talked about that on the podcast the other week with Chris Jones. We want to strategically deflect the wrong clients so that we're not wasting our time. But we also need to know that your people who are for you, there's nothing you can do to turn them away. And in fact, the more you show up as you, the more you share those quirks, the things that make you not perfect, the things that are awkward, the more they trust you, It's been a while since I shared this, but I'll share this here on the show. I do obviously a ton of videos. And I remember this was, I guess, coming up on 2 years now. I had skin cancer surgery and I had this like huge, they cut my forehead from top to bottom. And so it was and still is a big scar. And it was like right after the surgery, I think it was maybe the next day or the day of, I was coaching people at the time to be confident on camera. And I was I still am a makeup girl. So I would come on and do videos and I would have the lashes and the hair done and all of it. And that's just how I roll. Like part of me really wants to be a makeup artist in another lifetime. But so people would say like, oh, it's so easy when you're all done up and it's like easy to get on camera, yada, yada. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a video with a black eye. I'm going to do a video with no makeup and a black eye. And what do you know? That's the top performing video that I had put out up until that point. Because it was, and I got a lot of feedback on that. Like it is refreshing to see you not quote unquote perfect, right? To see you showing up in a really real way. And that to me was just such a powerful reminder of what people are really seeking and craving is you being you, not having to put on a filter, not having to put on a front. That's why for me, when I do live streams, like I made the strategic decision, I don't put filters on my live streams. just because I think when we think we have to be so filtered and so polished and so just done up all the time, it makes us, it perpetuates that myth of perfectionism that you won't be accepted unless you are different than how you are. And that's a lie. That is a big lie that is designed to keep you separate from what you really want. Because I tell you what, everything you really want shows up when you show up just as you. And then the final tip I would have is when you make a mistake, and you will, learn to laugh. Have the energy of, oops, I did that. And then you move on. So we make it like that, right? It's not about going into ruminating for 20 hours about the mistake you just made. And, oh, I can never reach out to this client again. I can never do this. I can never do that. Like, you laugh about it. I did that. And then you move on. And I want you to just play with that energy of like, oh, okay, great. Well, at least I was going for it. And now I'm going to keep going and see how it frees you up energetically. I mean, if you make a mistake and there's an apology that needs to be had, you do it and you move on in that way. But not spending any necessary time like dwelling on things that don't need to be dwelled on. That's not how a truly successful, forward-moving, abundant, confident person moves forward in their life. So those are your 3 tips. So number 1, get into service mode. Number 2, realize people don't trust perfect. Number 3, when you make a mistake, just laugh and move on. That's it. That's it. And you will laugh your way all to the bank, my friend. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I would love to hear from you on social. I'm at Elyse Archer on pretty much every platform out there. What did you think? What showed up for you? Have you struggled with perfectionism in your sales process? Is this something you're maybe just becoming aware of that has been a block? But let me know what you took away from this. And I would love if you are a woman who is looking to break through 6 figures or more. Guess what? We actually do have a website for the 10K Club now. But it wasn't necessary to start. So you can go check it out at elisearcher.com/10K Club and learn more about how to apply to be in our incredible community of women sales professionals and entrepreneurs who are stepping up to a whole new level in their lives. And then over at elisearcher.com, we have all sorts of goodies for you if you are wanting to scale to 7 figures, if you are a corporation looking for training for your team, we got you covered. So super grateful for you as a listener. I hope that this spoke to you. I hope it helped you. And I will see you on our next episode of She Sells